Hello, everyone. Hi. Good evening. This is Mainline Tonight, and I'm Tia Taylor, your host this evening, and just wanted to bring you all in. It's Wednesday. Tonight we have appearing, our special guest is Ellie McIntosh of Ellie Mac Designs. And we're really excited to have her come in. She's really multifaceted, interior design, visual arts, mural art. She works with tons of different mediums. I'm a huge lover of the arts myself, so I'm really excited to speak with Ellie today. So we're just going to wait for her to come on board, and we'll have her join in a moment. So I hope everyone's week is going well. I see Ellie here, so I'm going to bring her in now. And while we're waiting for Ellie to join in,
Hey,
hey Ellie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thanks. I'm really excited to speak with you tonight. I really enjoy going through your Instagram and your website to see all of your arts. I love that you're multifaceted.
Thank you.
It just like I was just mentioning, interior design, visual arts, custom builds, all kinds of textiles and materials. So I'm excited to get right into it. So tonight, our guest here on Mainline Tonight, and I'm Tia Taylor. Our guest is Ellie McIntosh of Ellie Mac Designs. Ellie, one of the things that we used for our promo was your mural arts.
Yeah.
And there was those two great mural arts. The one was the bloom, which I think is beautiful and fluid and moving. And the other one is also really cool, which is the distillery.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see if you could talk to us a little bit about those murals that you worked on.
Absolutely. So I recently completed the Bloom Southern Kitchen Restaurant or Southern Cooking Restaurant, and that's in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. It is painted on three sides. So I painted giant poppies that are kind of blooming around the building. And then the second one that I did following that was the revivalist gins. So I'll tell you a little bit about both. The
Okay.
Bloom Southern Kitchen, I wanted to create something that was a little bit more simplified because this is a historic structure in the area and it's really important to the people in the community. And so as I was driving around, I just noticed that I just loved all the movement that I felt from like the farms, all the crops they were growing and flowers that were blooming. And I thought, oh, it'd be kind of cool if it just feels like there's kind of this sway or this movement and it's relaxing. Um, and I was really lucky in both projects that I'll talk about here in that I had a lot of creative freedom in them. So they kind of came to me with an idea. They weren't quite sure what they wanted. And then I put a sketch together with this sort of idea of minimalism and to a degree, with the focus being on these giant blooms. And so it's a 4-story building, and I worked on two sides of it. And it's great the way the positioning of the building is because you have two main roads that kind of cross by it. So
Oh.
no matter what direction you're driving, you can see the mural on it. And then last minute, we decided to put a few blooms kind of coming around towards the front so it wasn't so plain across the front part of
And
it.
it also, I think, adding those other, I just saw it visually in the photos, but it sort of really adds to like that wave you're talking about of the
Yeah.
fluidness of the blooms. Like I just kind of visualize like walking through a field in the spring and the breeze blows
Yeah.
and it's also blowing on the building.
And it kind of gives you this childlike, fun, exciting feeling when you go by it because it reminded me of that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, when you're looking at the big old
Yeah.
puppy. So
When you look right, you look up, it's like, wow.
yeah, and I received a lot of good feedback from people who pull up, get out of their cars, and tell me how happy it made them. So, um, so that was a really exciting mural. And then I was approached by Revivalist Gins in Elverson, Pennsylvania, to paint their barn. They have a really cool building, a historic building as well, that is known in the area as the Hippie Barn. And I guess back in the 60s, a bunch of hippies squatted there and they painted these psychedelic murals in the upper part of the inside of the barn.
Oh, okay.
They have a little bit more sophisticated twist on their business that's happening there, but they wanted to capture the essence of what they do. And they had two companies that kind of came together under their brand. And they wanted to pay sort of tribute to
Homage to the history of
yeah,
the building.
barn. So at first I was like, well, shoot, I just painted flowers on one building. I don't want to be known as the girl who paints flowers because I actually hardly ever paint flowers. And then I thought, well, I also want to be careful about painting a hippie mural because I'm really careful as an artist to not get pigeonholed in an area. So I think this
Right.
would be a great opportunity to show my ability to do trompe l'oeil, which is kind of a fool the eye type painting. It's
Oh, okay.
trompe l'oeil is French for fool the eye.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, it'd be kind of cool if I painted two different stills on the building. I painted them in a copper paint, and they're different shapes. One's kind of bulbous, and the other one's tall and thin, and that represents the two main products that they make, or the two companies that came together. And then I just kind of did this. It's kind of a modern play on hippie type flowers, but it also kind of crossed into sort of this folk art that we see in the area. So I wanted to kind of
Okay.
root it in the community as well. So I was really careful about the way that I designed it. And it's super fun when you drive up and see it. You just go, what's that place?
Because it really, like you said, I think with the design elements of bringing in like what it actually is the distillery, the gin distillery, and then the elements of it being a hippie building, and then like taking in all that history and what it is now, it just culminates into this really like cool, funky style. I
Yeah.
think just looking at the pictures,
And that
Do you
was
have any like sketches or anything of those murals?
what I can do. I pulled these up on my iPad here. I don't know if you can see them or not.
Cool. Okay.
So I'm gonna hold this up. This is
Look at that.
green.
That's awesome. So that's like a sketch you use to like you showed that to them
This is
as
a
your
final picture.
concept?
This is a final picture of the building, but I usually will sketch
Okay.
the building in 3D, and then I'll kind of scribble on the side and kind of show what I'm going to do. But I don't put a lot of detail in my beginning phase because there's a lot of conversation that goes back and forth, and then every job site that I go on is different. I'm faced with different challenges,
Right.
and I do have to be able to adapt. I think I do have posts of the actual sketches that I did in my Instagram feed, and if you look at them, you can see that there's some deviation from the original sketch that I put in there. And it was as I was working, I might get down from the lift for the day and step back. And, that's not really working. Or I might get inspired by something else that I just kind of pop in. That happened
I
more
know how
with
you artists are. You get inspired and then you move then the spirit moves you to go a different direction.
absolutely.
I have a lot of artist friends, so I know.
It's kind of fun to have that freedom too. So I'll
Yeah.
have this one up here with my iPad. So this is
Okay, awesome.
this is the distillery. You can see the two.
That's the distillery. Okay. And then those are also for anybody watching. We had those on the Mainline Tonight promo, so you can see them there too. And then she has them there. And as you were talking a little bit about the process, talk to us a little bit more about the process of creating the mural. You just mentioned about how you do a sketch, and then you sort of freehand sketch lightly on the building, I guess, to give you a little more freedom. What else does it take to make these murals? Like, is there different types of equipment you use? And what about the materials you're using itself, like the paint?
So initially I'll kind of go to the job site. I'll kind of look at how I think the composition might end up working. And I look at where people are driving by, obviously, if I'm doing the murals, because typically they're used for marketing purposes. And then I'll put that sketch together and we kind of meet and go over the different ideas with it. Once we've come to a decision, I'll have lifts put in place that I need. So sometimes I'll use scissor lifts, sometimes I'll use cranes. And then I freehand almost everything I do. The only thing I don't do that with is if I'm doing lettering, and then I'll print out templates and transfer them on, because if lettering is not absolutely perfect, it doesn't look right. And
Right.
the other thing about lettering is that if you don't have a template, the time it takes to sit there and mathematically lay it out, it doesn't equate. I'd have to charge a lot more. So for, their purpose and mine, I end up transferring it. So anyways, typically I work in a color called yellow ochre. And I love using yellow ochre because it's a nice color to kind of pop through when you're doing, it's kind of like a nice underpainting that pops through in the end if you still see that paint revealed. And it's easy to cover up. So if I had to take white paint and cover it up, I wouldn't have to sit there and do lots of layers of it. So I'll literally.
Is that an industrial type paint? Like when you're doing the murals, like an outdoor, does it resist weathering?
Yeah, so the paint that I use is Nova Color paint. They're out of California, and they have really good light fastness in their paint. Their colors are vibrant. Amazingly, on the Revivalist mural, I actually used this, I used Payne's Gray, and it's like almost like a black color. And you'd think with black, you'd have to do like one coat after the next. Literally 2 coats, but the first coat covered most of it, which is unheard of with the color like
that.
And then with the copper as well, because normally metallic paints, it's almost like if you think about when you vacuum a carpet, when you go one direction and then you go another direction, you have to be really careful with metallic paints because your brush stroke directions can change the way the light makes the color
reflects on the paint. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
The paints are great, and I didn't have any issues when it comes to.
Awesome. And like about how long does it take you to complete, like the Bloom mural? How long did that take you to complete the project?
The Bloom mural took me 8 days, and the Revivalist one took me 9. So I work pretty
okay.
A lot of times I work 9 hours straight, and I don't take a break.
Wow.
If I literally will show up with the mission for the day, and I'm not leaving until it's achieved. But also with certain things, like as I'm working with the paint, I might need to continue going because one, it could change my technique if I wait until the next day.
Okay.
A lot of times I custom mix colors as I'm working. So, mixing and then risking the next day that maybe I didn't mix the color the same the next day. So that's another reason why I work really long hours when I do it. So unfortunately, when it's cold, I have to go indoors. So right now I'm doing more indoor stuff, but I do have some outdoor things that'll be coming up in the spring that are pretty exciting.
Cool, in the spring. And speaking of indoors, I'm glad that transitions us nicely to talk about some of your other works that you do. You've got like your visual arts, and I saw on your Instagram you had some cool like plexiglass commission work that you did. You're doing some custom builds, and then you do visual arts as well, like paintings, like traditional paintings as well. Are you using similar type materials in terms of your paint for your visual paintings that you're in the homes that you do?
Yeah, so if I'm doing a mural, I'll typically use the Nova Color paint. If I'm painting in my studio, I'll use sometimes a mix of that, golden paints. I have used house paint in some things. And then I do use different brands of other paints just depending on what I'm working on. As far as surfaces, I mean, I have painted on just about every kind of surface. Like some things I'm like, I can't believe I painted on that. But more recently, I've been painting on aluminum. I've got a piece behind me here I can tell you a little bit about.
Okay.
This is, I don't really do personal pieces that often, but this is kind of a personal piece I'm working on behind me. I'll kind of peek out of the window.
Yeah.
See what I've got, this composition here. So a friend of mine did this really cool painting commission for somebody where they asked to do a painting behind a piano harp. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do something like that for this idea that I have. So I picked up this piano harp. I'll show you what it looks like here.
So is that like the inside of a piano when you say piano harp?
Yeah, it's just the innards.
Right. Okay.
So basically what I did was, so she paints on aluminum, and I was like, oh, well, I got to try painting on aluminum. And ever since I started doing that, I think she's watching now, Anna, love the aluminum. But so this is on aluminum, and it's kind of it's about an 1/8 inch thick and really great smooth surface. And basically what I did is I took a template and I marked out all the areas that the harp doesn't cover because it's got these curves and stuff in it, and then it's got openings behind the strings. So I laid out where those openings were, and so you can kind of see I've got my grandfather playing the piano here, and my dad playing his fiddle here, and then in the other corner you can't see, I've got my son playing his French horn.
3 generations.
3 generations. They never played together. I used to play,
but they're playing together in your work.
Yeah. I was going to put this out. There's a little tiny opening in it. It's like a little circle. And I used to play. So I thought maybe I'd hide myself in that little thing because I wanted to be more about them. But eventually this will be mounted behind the harp. So you see kind of my dad through the strings, and then the 2 openings on the side, you'll see my grandfather and my son. So
that's very cool.
I also recently did an abstract piece for a client where I did reverse painting on plexiglass on a giant piece and then just put it in like a floater frame.
I saw that, and it was like metallic. That's on your Instagram, and you put some kind of metallic stuff on there.
I added in some 24 karat gold leaf that's kind of hidden throughout. So it's on the first layer and then a few layers back. So when you look at it, it has a lot of dimension. I'm using this diacrylic film that I'm starting to like mount behind on those pieces. I didn't use it on that one, but it's kind of like a translucent film that reflects different colors. So it creates like this really cool luminous.
Cool. Now, let me ask you, Ellie, my mom was asking earlier, do you ever show your work anywhere, or is it only, in terms of having a show or anything like that?
I have done that. I probably should do it more. I'm just so busy all the time. And
which is a good thing that you're busy.
The show takes a lot of time and effort. You got to get everything framed. And I do have a few collections that I've got in storage right now that I want to show in this area. I just haven't had any time to.
Yeah.
But I do occasionally do that.
Yeah. Well, talk to us a little bit, Ellie, about your background, because I know you're in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania area now, which is outside of Philadelphia, because we have our audiences mainly outside in the Philadelphia area, but I'm in Maryland and we've got some people in New York. So you're in the Philadelphia suburbs. Mm-hmm. So how did you get into, what is were you always living in that area? Did you start somewhere else when you started your art?
So I started out actually with the stuff that I'm doing now in Texas. So I'm from Denver. I moved to Texas, and I started painting when I was in college, and I thought, I really love painting. But I was doing a little bit more sculpture, and then once I finished my first painting class, I'd sold most of the stuff that I'd done, and I got my first mural commission. So I was like, I love this. I want to paint huge.
And murals are awesome too. Yeah.
So then when I did that, I found that, people didn't have the best lighting, and the furniture that was going in front of it wasn't great. And I loved architecture. So I thought, well, I'm going to go back to school and get my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Interior Architecture and Design. And then when I finished that, I just kind of kept the two together. So I'm kind of both. I have this, one of my skill sets is really having good spatial awareness. And so because of that, I can paint giant murals, and I have a sense of the scale that's appropriate. And when I'm working in design, I apply those same thoughts and principles as I'm working in those things. So I've had my interior design practice I started that about 4 years after I started doing the painting. So they've really been something that have been together for a long time. So it's not uncommon for me to have a space that I've designed that also has pieces that I put into it, or, custom finishes that I've done or something like that. Or I may even bring in other artists' work, because I think it's really important when you create a space to tap in to the artists in your community rather than just going to the store and buying some artwork that was made in China.
and the collaborations are beautiful too, because you have your style, and when you bring in another artist, their style might be different, but it can blend so beautifully. And then you're also working with somebody local, so that's the local economy and all that good stuff. So it really just helps to be more of a community effort when you're bringing in other artists too.
Yeah,
and then it gives more depth. to a space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I do, like, even when I do my murals, I have a local drone photographer, Drone Infinity, that films for me, trying to support other artists in other facets that I can tie into my business. Because to me, being connected to the other artists is how you thrive as an artist. You know, it's one
Yeah.
thing, you know, you want to have clients and you want to have all these other things so that you have revenue, but you need to constantly feed that creative energy. And so I'm always trying to do things where I'm involved with other artists. So I think that that's really important, and tying into those people that are in your community. So when I was in college studying art, I remember the artists that I knew in my community were kind of hard to approach. And I thought, I don't ever want to be like that.
You want to be a down to earth artist that someone can like come to you and say, paint a mural on the side of our building.
Yep. So I think, and then it kind of it brings everybody together where they're kind of sharing information, and I'm very open about like what materials I use and what inspires me, and I think that if you fuel creative energy, it just makes your community more vibrant in general.
And I am a firm believer in community as well. And I think Mainline Tonight in general, that's how this all started. Melissa started this for the community and to bring everybody together. So I love that you have that communal mindset in terms of when you're creating to bring other artists in. And we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but before we wrap up, you have worked all over the world, and I know you've done some work in Europe and some other places, but can you talk a little bit about Morocco? Because I just find Morocco to be so exotic, the food, the culture. I've only seen it in books and on the Travel Channel, but I think it's really cool. And lately, we're all like, we've been pretty much home for the last several months. And the idea of going to someplace exotic and cool is really exciting to me right now. So talk to me a little. It's really exciting to want to go to Morocco and see the beautiful doorways and arches and all that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit about your work in Morocco. I guess it was visual arts or interior, and I think you worked on a hotel there, right? A hotel in Morocco?
Yeah, so I'll kind of back up a little bit because I think it's important to kind of note that in my early years, I started studying faux finishing, and the seed was planted at that time for me to meet the people that would connect me to go over there. And so when I was studying that stuff, there was a lady that I'm friends with who owns a stencil company, Royal Stencils. And she was working with someone who had started a boutique hotel over in Morocco called Peacock Pavilions. And she was doing these artist retreats where you could go over there and you could paint and you could do all these things. So I participated in going over there and painting one of the rooms in the boutique hotel that's over there. And I got involved with some other activities that were going on there. And I just absolutely fell in love with the place. And I just, every time I go back there, it's one of those places that just fuels your soul. When you're there, it's a community of people who celebrate craftsmanship. And it's craftsmanship that's passed down from generations. And it's not something that's flawed, that's cheapened, So like the rugs that are made, I mean, the women will sit on a dirt floor and make one rug for like, a month or maybe longer.
Wow.
When you walk through the souks, like it's kind of like their shopping mall, except the craftsmen are actually sitting in their cubbies and they're making things on, I saw this one guy making a pot on a little thing that was kind of crooked, and I'm like, how is he making it so perfect? It's going the wrong way. Or when you're walking through the metal souks and you hear them hammering and drilling through things, or and the tools they use are just, it's cool to even see the tools that they use. So for me as an artist to go to a place where literally everywhere you turn is somebody's art studio is really exciting for me. Plus, I love gardens, and Morocco is kind of like one of those places where you constantly stumble across these secret gardens.
Which I'm sure even adds to the artistry, like seeing these little secret gardens, it inspires you to create different. Mm-hmm. And it even speaks to, I guess, like some of the detail in Morocco. Like when you see some of the artwork that, like some of the things I saw on your Instagram page, all those little pieces, like you said, like seeing the people creating that art and the tools they use, it just gives you a whole different perspective and can inspire you in a different way, I guess.
Yeah, and I literally, you're just bombarded with color, pattern, the flavors. And because that area was so influenced by Europe and the Middle East, and I mean, it's a place that is so diverse in culture that you're just like connected to so many things when you're there. I think it's really cool. So I really, really
that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
Hosting a retreat there in April. I was going to take people, I had kind of set it up. We were going to take some people do yoga and art over there in April, but it's on hold right now. So hopefully, after COVID has gone bye-bye, or at least is tolerable enough that we could travel again, I do plan to get back there again. And I would love to be able to share it with other people because it was shared with me and it's just really touched my heart. So.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, it's beautiful that you had that experience and you can bring some of that Moroccan journey back here with you, and it continues to inspire you. And I'm sure elements of it will pop up, when you're inspired in a certain space to put some of those Moroccan elements in.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I'm really glad we had this opportunity to learn more about your work, your experiences. Tell us how we can find you on social media and your website.
Right. So most of the stuff that I post regularly is on Instagram at Ellie Mac Designs. And I also have a website, www.elliemac.us.com. I also have a YouTube channel. I can't remember. I think it's Ellie Mac Designs. I should know that, right?
But I'm sure if you go to your website, you can, if you go to her Instagram, and I'm sure it'll link you to your YouTube also somehow.
Yeah, I do have Facebook, but most of what I put on Facebook is shared directly from Instagram. So to me, Instagram is like the best visual platform ever. So that's where you'll find
you artist and your Instagram.
It's a great place to be, right?
It is actually, but I know like it really visually makes things pop on Instagram. So Ellie McIntosh of Ellie Mac Designs, thank you so much for talking with us tonight here at Mainline Tonight. We really enjoyed seeing your work. Again, if you'd like to see more of Ellie's work, see a little of her Moroccan things, a couple Moroccan things I think were on your Instagram too, like a couple doorways or something like that.
Project I'm working on right now. I have an interior design project where we're adding in some Moroccan and Indonesian kind of elements.
Yes.
For me, because up in this area, you don't really do that very often. So.
Yeah, it adds a little flavor to the countryside. Well, that's awesome. So if you'd like to see more of her work, please go to Ellie Mac Designs on Instagram. You can also check out her website, and there's a link on her Instagram profile to find her other social media, on YouTube too. So thank you so much, Ellie. We enjoyed having you tonight. We're going to get ready to close out the show. So thank you, everyone there at home watching. And for tonight, I'm Tia Taylor, and this is Mainline Tonight. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thanks.